this look like work to you? Nah, looking at the lights like it's all that is for me.
This is the Double A Balls Podcast with your hosts.
Ooh. See, now we're spitting hot fire, Andy.
Las Vegas.
Woo! Andrew Romanella.
I like that. That's what I'm talking about. I'll be the best cheerleader. Father Time apparently doesn't know Tom Brady's address.
And Anthony Rinaldi.
Love the hardwood. That's my passion. Houston, they don't have a problem. Listen, you don't even have to listen.
Now it's time for the show.
We ball hogging like we ballin' for the heat. I didn't burn for passion.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. This is the Double A Balls Podcast. I am your host, Andrew Romanella, and sitting beside me always is my partner, Anthony Rinaldi.
Andrew, how are you?
It's a great day to talk about sports. The Double A Balls Podcast. Follow us on social media, Instagram and Twitter.
Social media blitz.
At Double A Balls on both. Visit the website, DAABpodcast.com. Hit the subscribe button on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Podbean. Follow us, and of course, poweronperformance.com for your apparel. We're going to jump right into this thing, Anthony. You put 20 bananas on LeBron James. I put 20 bananas on the field. The Cleveland Cavaliers lost game number 1 for the first time in LeBron James's career. Are you getting a little nervous?
Seems like everybody today was nervous for the King. He kind of made that little snarky comment like, don't come at me with deficits, because obviously they came back from a 3-1 deficit in the finals. So, an 0-1 deficit, are you worried? It's only one game. I mean, you don't want to lose, your home, the first game of your building. But listen, they have one more on Wednesday, and listen, they lost by 18. They got their butt whooped.
That's what scares me, though, is they couldn't muster more than 80 points in that game. Does it scare you that LeBron James is legitimately their only option? And can they actually win with this formula in the playoffs? Because they're also not that great defensively, proven by what Victor Oladipo did to them on the day.
Victor Oladipo. You told me he was top 15 player, Andrew.
He might have proved it at least on one night.
Wow. What was he? He was 11 for 19, I believe. 32 points?
Yes, sir. 32 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, and 4 steals.
Filling up the scoreboard like Andrew Romanella Purple Squad.
I'm telling you, this Indiana team is nothing to mess with, and I think what you have to see from the Cleveland Cavaliers in Game 2 is a better commitment to defense. There has to be better rotation defensively. You can't allow Victor Oladipo to beat you. You have to force Indiana to have anybody else on that roster beat you. And you have to figure out how you can find a way to click offensively, because at the end of the day, everybody knows what LeBron James is going to bring. But if Kevin Love doesn't get a little bit more aggressive and go to the hole and find himself open for threes and become a second legit option for LeBron James and this team, I don't think Cleveland is going to go very far.
You saw exactly how tired LeBron James was when he was signaling to his bench, get me out, I need a blow. You could tell the yeoman's work he was trying to do with that squad that they had on the floor. I don't know if you can pull the numbers up or if you have them, but between Korver, Kevin Love, Rodney Hood, George Hill, and Clarkson, they were maybe 2 for 19?
Yeah, if you look at
like
Kevin Love was 3 of 8. I mean, he was 3 for 6 from beyond the arc, which is exactly what you need, but he only scored 9 points. Yeah, he brought down 17 rebounds, which is fantastic, but right now, because there's no longer a Kyrie Irving on this team, you need Kevin Love to be a prime-time scorer. You go down the list, Larry Nance Jr. scored 10 off the bench, and J.R. Smith scored 15 off the bench, but you didn't get much. Kyle Korver didn't even have a point in this game. He only played 4 minutes, so nothing really special from there. There was really not a factor. And the other thing I looked at, and this was the biggest thing for me, is it's an 8-man rotation for the Cavs. They've really shortened their bench. The problem is the likes of Larry Nance Jr., J.R. Smith, and Jordan Clarkson don't really scare me in terms of bench depth.
Did Tristan Thompson play, or was he out
2 minutes
getting some tail?
He was a little bit worried about the after the game festivities as opposed to the during the game festivities. So he only played 2 minutes. So, I mean, those are my concerns, Anthony. And, I mean, for me, it's looking like maybe 20 bananas could be coming my way because even if they do find a way, it's not panic mode after one game, but even if they do find a way to win this series, I just don't see them going farther because I just don't think they're deep enough and they're good enough defensively to do so.
Out of all the games this weekend, I kind of penciled that one, the Indy game. That's kind of the one that stands out. The rest was pretty much, chalk, except the Pelicans did overtake the Trailblazers. Is that a 3-6 matchup? What is it?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah.
And that was the
basically
first,
two upsets.
And that was the first time I feel like I've ever seen Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum. Neither of them play good together.
Home teams 6-2. Vegas loves that probably.
Absolutely. For me, I spent a lot of my time watching the Thunder play the Jazz. Paul George was en fuego.
That's Spanish for the fuego.
The Thunder missed 2 total free throws in the game. Russell Westbrook played fantastic. Carmelo hit some big shots and some big free throws down the stretch. Steven Adams was a force. I'll tell you what, I really like what Corey Brewer has brought to the team. And the Thunder went on to win 116-108 against the Jazz. Yeah, a little bit of scare at the end. They kind of turned off the Jets with about 3 minutes left and like a 16-point lead. But at the end of the day, they did exactly what they needed to do in game number 1.
You can tell what teams are basically on the cusp of winning a championship, and those teams that are good enough to make the playoffs but aren't quite there yet. And you can tell by looking at Utah with that young core. Listen, they're going to have Mitchell. They got Gobert locked up. They get another draft pick, I think, up this year. I think they lost one of the trades they had. But they also got is Ricky Rubio over there in Utah?
Yeah, playing really well.
So listen, they have some pieces over there. They're a young team. They're talented, and you can see it doesn't matter trading away theoretically the best player in Utah in the beginning of the season, before the season to Boston, really didn't take an effect.
Donovan Mitchell is legit.
Should have been a Knick. Thanks, Phil Jackson.
Donovan Mitchell is legit. The other night, he was 11 for 22 from the field, scored 27 points and brought down 10 rebounds. He was 3 of 7 from beyond the arc. And for most of the second half of that game, he was playing on a bum left foot, even to the point where the training staff, when they were down by 15 with about 6 or 7 to go in the fourth quarter, the training staff pulled him off the court. They were trying to tell him that he wasn't going to play the rest of the game. Him and the players on the floor, Jay Crowders, Derek Favors, a few others, Ingles, they came over and they're like, no, coach, we need him on the floor right now. If he's good enough to play, he's coming back on the floor. He gets back on the floor, comes down, dribble, pull up from the free throw line, knocks down a 2, and then the next time down the floor, knocks down a 3. The kid is legit as a rookie in the league right now and is going to be a perennial all-star.
Yeah, there's quite a few matchups down the stretch. You'll get them after, either during the finals or right after. You get the MVP race, you get the Rookie of the Year. Ben Simmons and Donovan Mitchell are going neck and neck.
Sixers put up 130 in game 1.
Well, listen, I think the Heat they're just a glorified old man roster. They're just kind of doing it with glue and duct tape.
Haslam?
Old man, dude's got a huge tattoo of his Panhandle of Florida on his back.
I like the point guard, though, Dragic. They got him in a trade, I think it was 2 years ago from the Suns. I like him a lot, and I got to give credit to Eric Spoelstra. Do you agree? Everyone thought that he was a dead man walking once LeBron James left Miami and that they were no longer going to have success. And somehow Eric Spoelstra has found a way to make that team relevant every year.
You got to love that story of his come to head coaching with the Heat, starting as the friggin' scout tape boy, basically just running tape all day long. But listen, he grinded, he put the time in, he became a hell of a coach. Sure, it helps when you get the best player on the globe. But my problem with Miami is Hassan Whiteside. That dude got paid, and he has, I think, over $90 million. And that dude did not show up. And Embiid's not even playing. How do you get schooled like that and Embiid's not even playing?
I think what disappoints me more than anything about the Hassan Whiteside situation, and this goes for any player in sport that gets paid the way he got paid, for you to stop showing up the right way once you get your check is probably one of the most disappointing things in the entire world, because you're proving the exact opposite of why you got paid. You got paid because you were that guy that came in, that worked, that helped the team, that had the team first, that did everything that was important to what the Miami Heat organization wanted and needed to move forward as a championship team. Now all of a sudden you get paid. And what you saw it with Sheldon Richardson with the Jets last year, you're just looking at it going, my man, we paid you because you're one of the best players in the NFL. But you have to keep that level up. You don't just get to stop showing up. And to your point, Anthony, Whiteside brought you 12 minutes and 2 points last night as a starter without Joel Embiid in the lineup.
That sounds like a contract the Knicks would give up. Was it, Andrew? Can you pull it up? Or I believe it was. I think it's $96 million or $93 million. I forgot what his absurd contract is. But I mean, that game was kind of back and forth. You know, Miami did put up a good fight, but I think Philadelphia is going to take this first series, Andrew. I wrote down a quick little note on each of these series here. I wrote Philly looks solid, Boston hanging on. That was a pretty good game. I mean, you got to give up to Brad Stevens for his coaching job too. Talk about a guy doing it with glue and duct tape.
And that buzzer beater, they had to overcome that and win it in overtime.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I thought the Bucks had that momentum once Middleton hit that 45-footer. But I also, what else did I write down? I had these great notes, Andrew. I'm quite the notes taker.
Well, while you figure that out, I got your contract for Hassan Whiteside.
How many bananas?
4 years, $98.4 million. Here's the breakdown.
Wow.
Last year, he made $22.11 million. This year he's making 23.7. Next year he makes 25.4, and the last year of the contract he makes 27.1. And just to remind you, for all of that money, he brought you 12 minutes and 2 points in the playoffs.
They're going to use that amnesty clause on him, I guarantee, where you cut bait with one of your dumb contracts, like the Knicks did with the $100 million Marty Stoudemire contract.
Yeah, he's clearing 22 plus every year in the cap.
Yeah, Pat Riley's not going to. I can't believe that they signed off on that contract. Kudos to his agent. I hope he bought him a nice car or something.
To get back to the teams on track, your point about the Celtics and Brad Stevens is so true, because the only reason why they are where they are is because they have a great coach at the helm.
How about your Warriors? Just want to tell everybody, hey, you can talk about Houston all you want. We're still here. We may not have Chef Curry, but we'll just do the easy work. They look good. Houston still found a way. Besides, it looked like it was 2-on-5 at one point. It looked like it was just James Harden and Clint Capella versus the Minnesota.
Disappointing from Chris Paul, excuse me.
Yeah, he had a kind of a wild
disappointing from Chris Paul, and from the first quarter, disappointing. A few turnovers, no points, wasn't really doing much on the offensive side. Through like the first 8 minutes of the game, he almost looked lost.
There was one sequence towards the end of the game where it's kind of crucial part. I think that Houston was up 4 or 5. Chris Paul literally was dribbling around and literally threw the ball out of bounds. Like, just kind of like lost it, fumbled it. I don't know what it was. And he kind of made it look like, yeah, that's my bad. Like, yeah, hello, you're in a playoff game and it's only a 2-possession game. And he literally just gave the ball back to Minnesota. But then I believe Jimmy Butler went down, took some kind of fadeaway jump shot too when they were down 3, which didn't make any sense. But, you know, Houston finds a way to hold on, Andrew. And your boy, the Beard, making a case for his MVP, carrying that over from the regular season. 44, right?
Yeah, he's just so good and he's proving it. But we've talked about this. I think everybody's talked about this. I need to see it consistently now throughout the playoffs. He hit early last year too. He did this early in the playoffs last year too. But as it got later, and that's where I look at Chris Paul and start saying, man, you need to start showing up. You need to start carrying your weight, because we already saw the script last year when it was only James Harden, and it was not pretty when it got deep into the playoffs and you were playing the best teams remaining. So we need you to figure it out, because it can't be James Harden. Yeah, Clint Capella is a great option. They ran the pick and roll last night beautifully. Clint Capella's a dynamite down low defensively, coming out of nowhere with some backside help blocks. Fantastic. But at the end of the day, I think we've learned in this NBA, it's a 3-headed monster that gets you a championship, no longer a 2-headed monster.
Tom Thibodeau, who I
It's a
really
dangerous team.
really wish the Knicks went after during that head coaching free agents.
Dangerous team.
He called out your boy Cat. Your boy Cat did not show up.
No.
And that you can't have that in a playoff game. What do you have? I think it's 7 points.
From a guy
Yeah,
that
Hassan Whiteside kind of night, right?
it's right, and that's from a guy that you fully expect to lead your team and be the key to your offense. 8 points, 3 of 9 from the field, and he played 40 minutes.
You saw that at the end of that game there with that missed. They called the timeout, that free throw, and they confused everybody. The dude missed a free throw. He caught it and wanted to hand the ball to the ref and kind of took like 19 steps, and then realized it was a live ball and just threw it down the court. And somehow Minnesota got a layup out of it. I mean, it was kind of almost comical to watch that play unfold.
Just want to give you a few games to really watch. Obviously, we've dissected a few different teams in the NBA, but before we have our Friday morning dab on Friday morning,
Third annual dab.
the third annual dab, we'll talk a little bit more in the Whataya Got. But the Cavaliers, Wednesday night against the Pacers, that's a huge game 2.
Teaser.
I'm also looking at the Thunder versus the Jazz that same night, also a huge game 2. And then when you look at Thursday, to me, I look at the Pelicans versus the Trailblazers, since the Pelicans were able to take game number 1 of that series. I'm saying Pelicans, Trailblazers, game 3 ends up being the winner of that series. So a few games to look at on Wednesday and Thursday, which Anthony and I will dissect, on the Friday morning dab.
Andrew, I am amped up. You'll be proud of me. I watched NHL playoff hockey over the weekend. Obviously, this is the best time of year in sports. Like I know we said it, I believe, during March Madness with the start of baseball and hoops and whatnot. But honestly, NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, the draft is 10 days away. Baseball's heating up. Your Mets are on a roll, dude. I mean, you must be going bananas.
It is.
How's the squad looking, by the way?
Easily the best time of year in sports, 100%. And I am pumped about the Mets. And I'm very excited to talk about the Mets. And I'm very excited to talk about how well they're playing. I think Mickey Callaway was the right decision. But before we get there, I have another favorite team in the playoffs, and that's the New Jersey Devils. And it looked bleak early for the New Jersey Devils. Before we get into that, though, I'm going to remind you that if you need anything done with your house, whether that is a renovation, an addition, a remodel, or a redone kitchen, bathroom, living room, indoor trim, all of it, call Frankie Franchise Construction at 973-789-6236. Mention the Double A Balls podcast or email him at frank.franchiseconstruction@gmail.com. And when you mention the Double A Balls podcast, no guarantee, but he might just give you a discount on that first remodel or addition or renovation, whatever you need. Frankie Franchise Construction is the best in the construction industry. Call him 973-789-6236 or email frank.franchiseconstruction@gmail.com. The NHL playoffs, Anthony, are heating up. I know you did spend time watching some of the key matchups in the NHL over the last few days.
You know, sometimes if you throw a few bananas on Nashville, you start watching a little Nashville hockey. Didn't even know Nashville had a team, but country music and hockey, that's what Nashville does, Andrew. Talk to me.
And they're doing a really good job. The Nashville Predators I think are going to go on for a sweep of the Colorado Avalanche in that series. They have played very good hockey, and what's crazy about the Predators, and I think that they've done this all year, is anytime they've gotten down in a game, and it was funny because I was listening to the radio the other day, and I think they were down to the Avalanche in the first period. I want to say it was 2-0 or 1-0, and somebody on the radio was giving an update. And, Nashville's down, but they'll most likely come back. And then they said, well, I don't mean that just because I think that they're just going to come back. It's because they've proven every single game that they're never out of a game. And sure enough, the next update came 10 minutes later. Nashville was up 2-1. So I think that's what's so great about that team right now, Anthony, is that the Nashville Predators are able to find a way to win even on their worst days. Tonight in the NHL, the Golden Knights will be looking for a series sweep of the Los Angeles Kings.
How about
They're
that story,
up 3-0. I know we've talked about that a lot, Anthony, but aren't you starting to see what I'm talking about? How you can't treat this like a regular expansion team because of all the playoff experience they have?
Yeah, kudos to that GM for literally plucking every roster for those kind of, not misfit
Fantastic
players,
job.
I mean, look at their goalie. I know he came from Pittsburgh, who he has quite the track record there. So I just like that matchup over the LA goalie. Quick, look at me, Andrew. I'm naming hockey players.
Fun fact, my brother scored a goal against Jonathan Quick.
Nice.
Yes, it was in a summer hockey game. Rebound goal. Rocky Romano put the puck in. Summer hockey game. I think they were down like 8-0 in this summer hockey game. Man, I don't even know where we were. I think somewhere reckless in New York, I think. And
Nyack.
Jonathan Quick. I spent a lot of time in that area. Now, Jonathan Quick was in goal, and there was a rebound in front. My brother put it in, and lo and behold, Jonathan Quick ends up becoming a Stanley Cup winner and one of the best goaltenders in the National Hockey League.
If I'm your brother, I'm telling that story all the time.
All the time. And to continue here with this NHL update, also tonight, the Wild host the Jets. Right now, the Winnipeg Jets have a 2-1 series lead there. Again, I felt the whole time like Winnipeg is going to win this series. I just think they were playing too well down the stretch. And Minnesota, again, as mentioned before, is a little injured. Also, with a 2-0 series lead, the Columbus Blue Jackets host the Washington Capitals. And we've talked about this before, and I've said this a million times. It is an epidemic in Washington. They cannot find a way to win in the playoffs. And again, a great Capitals team goes in and loses their first 2 games at home and now has to go to Columbus and try and crawl out of a 2-0 series hole.
And weren't they up multiple goals in both games?
Yes.
And who's in goal? They got to put Holtby in goal. Am I right, Andrew? Look at me. I'm naming guys. I can't even spell their name, but I'm naming them.
Part of me thinks you just went on the NHL rosters and just grabbed names and said, oh, this sounds like a good one. I'm going to bring this name. But no, you're not wrong. And I think at the end of the day, the Devils did this last night. They put Corey Snyder in net instead of Keith Kincaid because the first 2 games of the series, maybe it wasn't fully Keith Kincaid's fault, but John Hines just felt like the Devils needed a spark. Now, I don't know if that's going to spark them to find a way to come back in this series. I really hope it does, but it's going to be difficult because I think the depth of Tampa Bay and the speed and just how well they play as a team and just the firepower comes at you from 4 lines at waves. It's just so very difficult. But I just think that the Capitals somehow need something, but there has to be an answer to this problem. And in my opinion, Anthony, if I'm the Washington Capitals and this year's playoffs go the same way the last 3, 4, 5, 6 have, I'm thinking about trading Alexander Ovechkin and blowing the entire thing up. Because what does it matter? You haven't won in the 10 years he's been there anyway.
Exactly. And, mainly, I feel like hockey is if you can ride a solid goaltender and you have, a 1 or 2 good scoring. Obviously, Pittsburgh, the Penguins, they got Sid the Kid. They got Malkin. Look at me. I know some hockey, dude.
I'm proud of you, Anthony. I'm proud of you. And so a bunch of games on Wednesday and Thursday to get into a few series that might come to an end, a few series like the Penguins and Flyers that I think might go to 7 games. So a lot to watch in the NHL. We will have more of it for you on Friday. I have a feeling a few series will be over by our Friday morning dab. But again, tune into the Friday morning dab. And again, obviously follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram.
Social media blitz.
At AA Balls on both TheAABpodcast.com, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Podbean. Make sure you hit subscribe. Make sure you rate the podcast. Give it a 5-star. And what else is a 5-star? It's Frank Franchise Construction. Remember, Frankie Franchise Construction is the best in the construction industry. That NHL update was brought to you by the man, the myth, the Frankie Franchise. Set 973-789-6236. Anthony, cue the game show music. It is another episode of What Does Anthony Know About Sports? So, we're listening to our listeners. I've spoken to a few, and they wanted to know if it was what does Anthony know about sports or what does Anthony know about hockey. I realized a lot of our questions were tailored towards hockey. We have now learned you're learning about hockey. So, on today's episode of What Does Anthony Know About Sports, we will ask you questions of different varieties. So here we go. 3 questions on the docket for today, Anthony. Question number 1. There are 2 days out of the entire year where all 4 major sports don't play. I'm not asking for the specific dates. I'm asking if you know what 2 days they are.
2 days where all 4 sports.
2 days. All sports do not play.
Wow, this is a brain teaser.
I'll give you 15 more seconds.
Can I get a hint, Bob?
Summer.
Independence Day, not baseball. Come on, say I'm not. It's one of the best days of the year.
5 seconds.
I don't know. I forfeit.
The answer would be the day before and the day after the MLB All-Star Game. The only 2 days all year, none of the 4 major sports are playing in competition. 0 for 1 on this AA Balls podcast, episode 14. Here we go. True or false? Anthony Rinaldi, the New York Mets are the first team in MLB history to win their first 5 series to start a season.
Is that Mets history or all baseball history?
The New York Mets are the first team in MLB history
Oh, there you go.
to win their first 5 series.
Next time, maybe we say context, Anthony. Context.
Context, Anthony. Context. False. The New York Mets 2018 team is the first team in New York Mets history to win their first 5 series, going for a 6th big series
That's
right
2
now
trick questions.
against the Washington Nationals. 0 for 2. Uh-oh. Here we go. I'm having a feeling you're going to miss this one, but I'm going to give it to you anyways. Anthony Rinaldi, what 5 colors make up the Olympic rings?
Red, white, blue, yellow, green.
You are correct on 3 of them. Red, blue, and green. The other 2 colors are?
Black.
And?
Um,
5 seconds. Shines every day.
Yellow.
Boom!
I said green and yellow.
No, you didn't.
I said red, white, and blue, green, yellow. My first 5.
Sure. Either way, I will give it to you. Yes, the Olympic
Tough.
rings are yellow, red,
First 2
green,
questions
black,
were
and blue.
ridiculous. This game is under contest.
So Anthony goes 1 for 3 today on
Still
What Does Anthony Know About Sports.
Baseball Hall of Fame.
If my quick math is correct, that means you are 6.5 for 10 in your career of What Does Anthony Know About Sports. A cool little stat I just gave you, Ant. The Mets have won their first 5 series, first time in franchise history.
They are hot, Andrew. They are buying into whatever Mickey Callaway is spitting out. Let me tell you. I watched some of this. I have a few of these knuckleheads on my fantasy team, so obviously I have a rooting interest. But to tell you the truth, they kind of remind me of the Yankees last year a little bit. You know, they're fun to watch. They're never out of the game. Even if they're down a run or 2, you'll see that they'll come back the next inning, the next frame, and put up a crooked number, which you always want to see. And it's not home run ball. It's not one particular guy. It's a bunch of guys. And that starting rotation went healthy. They are, and listen, your bullpen's pretty lights out too.
I think that's what excites me the most, Anthony, is right now the bullpen is performing way above the level you expected them to. And why I love the Mickey Callaway hire more now than ever is not because of the way the team is playing, but it's because I feel like for the first time in a few years, all of our pitchers have the chance to stay healthy and be quality the whole year because a proven pitching guy alongside another proven pitching guy are leading this ship right now, and understand that the bread and butter for the New York Mets in the 2018 season is that staff.
I didn't watch the game yesterday, but I was impressed with the win because a lot of their key guys were out, and and your boy Flores came up with a game-winning
Are you
goal.
talking about on Sunday night against the Brewers when Flores hit the walk-off home run?
You're right. I don't know what day it is.
Either way, You're 100%
All I know is
correct.
I started work this week, and it's brutal.
Either way, you are 100% correct because that's a huge game. Because I'm always a big believer that obviously you need to peak late, and it's a long MLB season. And I need to see them again. Of course, the 162, yada 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 yada. At the end of the day, you have to find a way to win games when you're not at your best. And early in this season, the Mets have proven one start, Noah Syndergaard only goes 4 innings. They piece 5 shutout innings of the bullpen together. They win a game. On Sunday night, their offense isn't great. A throwing error by Ahmad Rosario gives the Brewers the 2 runs. Flores hits a game-winning home run. I mean, those things have to happen if you want to be a championship team.
I mean, maybe this is just nitpicking, Andrew, but I guess if there's one thing that, because I feel like for Met fans, it's always, were they 12-2? When's the other shoe gonna drop? When are the Mets gonna be the Mets? When are they gonna do something silly or Met-like? But I guess one thing I've kind of noticed is the pitching staff doesn't give you longevity, which is kind of interesting, right? I think Zach Wheeler went 7 innings once. But
Yes.
But like you just said, Thor went 4 innings, 1 start. I think Sunday night he went only 5 1/3.
But I don't think that longevity is because they're not good or they're not there yet. I think it's because Mickey Callaway is partly protecting their arms. I think he's looking at it going, we can afford this now. Let me pull him in the 5th and the 3rd inning because he's not great right now and he's close to 100 pitches. We can give it to our bullpen so that later on in the year, he's dominant later.
That was my question. Like I said, I didn't see it on Sunday. Was it was he up at bat and he pulled him for a pinch hitter, or was he just at a high pitch count?
For Noah Syndergaard,
Yeah.
he actually let him hit
He did.
in the bottom of the 5th inning. Didn't take him out for a pinch hitter. He went back in the 6th inning, got 1 out, and then just couldn't get out of the inning, and then that's when he pulled him. So he showed the want to leave Noah in, who was throwing very well. And then last night, on Monday, Jacob deGrom had a fantastic start. He went 7, and that's the longevity I think you're talking about that now moving forward you want to see. And right now they're in a series with the Washington Nationals that I think they need to come out on the side of winning 2 out of 3. They swept them last time. It's completely okay. Everyone wants a sweep of the Nationals. It's a great team, but you are going to lose games to that team this year. But at the end of the day, it comes down to series wins. So we'll see if the Mets can keep playing good baseball. They are right now. They're on a roll, and I love it. Across the way, the Yankees got a big win on Monday night. They blew out the Miami Marlins. It was really good to see, and I think playing the Marlins has come at the right time for the New York Yankees.
I don't think I watched a Yankee game in like 4 days. What's going on? Well, it was rain out there in Detroit.
But I think it worked out for them, though, because they got to rest their bullpen arms.
Oh, I didn't.
And I think that was huge.
That's the underlying issue with the New York Yankees, I feel like. Because you feel like Stanton, he'll figure out, he's a hitter. He's just, it's probably more mentally at this point. He's adjusting to New York. Let that warm weather come in May. He'll be hitting bombs for days. I like Aaron Judge. He's fine. Aaron Hicks out in center field. Check this, Andrew. Your boy Jacoby Ellsbury was out with I think a shoulder strain or some kind of oblique strain or something. His first injury. So he's rehabbing. He hurts a hip. Now he's rehabbing his hip. He hurt his foot. I think he's done.
Another wasted contract.
Oh yeah, that's one of those Brian Cashman mulligans he would love to take back. But
Well, what you got to love from Monday night, tell me if I'm wrong, is that Aaron Judge went deep. I mean, Didi went deep again, but Aaron Judge hit the 60th home run of his career. 60th. He hasn't even played over 1.5 full major league seasons.
and to think, remember when he first came up, they were like, can he hit? He strikes out a lot, doesn't take many pitches, and he's kind of all over the place. And look what he's kind of turned into.
He's hitting 351 right now, and I think what's more impressive to me, though, and you made this point early on in the year when we were talking about whether or not he should be a leadoff hitter, he's at nearly a 480 clip on base percentage right now. Essentially 50% of the time, Aaron Judge is getting on base. That is ridiculous when you include the other guys like a Didi Gregorius, like a Brett Gardner, and a few other of these guys that you want to get on base. Listen to this, and this is the strength of the Yankees right now, and this is why you really want the pitching staff to come along. You look at Aaron Hicks. Now, I know it's a little bit more of a limited sample size, but you look at Aaron Hicks, 412 on base percentage. Fantastic. As long as you're over the 40, you're looking good right there. Didi Gregorius, 438. Aaron Judge, 479. Look at Ronald Torreyes, 400. So you're looking up and down this lineup and you're saying to yourself, 4 or 5 guys. Brett Gardner, 397, essentially 400. You're looking at this lineup going, 4 or 5 guys are consistently getting on base a lot of time for us. If we can start getting our pitching staff on the same page and get timely hitting, we are going to be in a very good spot.
Exactly, and you hear a lot of the New York Bronx Bomber fans calling in worried, concerned about Boone, concerned about this, that, or the other thing. Clearly, our the run support is there for the Yankees. I'm not concerned about that. Like you said, with all that potential, they score runs in bunches. But for some reason, a typical night was Friday night, the only game they played in Detroit. I believe they were up 8-1 at one point. All of a sudden, I turn around, it's 8-6. 8-6. The bullpen gave up, and Chapman's kind of all over the place. Betances is all over the place. Canley couldn't hit the beach from the ocean. I think,
And that's what scares you, though. Well, either way, couldn't hit the beach from the ocean, couldn't hit the ocean from the beach. Either one, he still couldn't hit what was close to him, and I agree with you. That's what scares me. But look, they beat the Miami Marlins. They've now won 2 straight. They're 8-7, so they're 1 game over 500. Now you're just looking at it saying, can we put a few together? Can we win 3 or 4 before we lose our next one? Then can we go on another, win 3 or 4 before we lose our next one? That's all you need to worry about. And at the end of the day, by July 1st, probably by the time we start talking about the trading deadline, the Yankees are going to be buyers. They're going to be right in the thick of things in the AL East. And all of the panic that's going on in New York Yankees world right now is going to be completely out the window because they're going to be playing up to the baseball that they should be playing.
And with the injuries coming to a close, hopefully, I believe Greg Bird was out in the outfield today shagging some fly balls during BP, which is always a good sign, doing a little bit of light baseball work. You'll see they're gonna call up Gleyber Torres. I think they should move him over to second, put Neil Walker at first, and then put Ronnie Torreyes at third base.
So you'd rather see them go with Walker than continue to let Tyler Austin get some at-bats?
Austin, Wade,
when he comes back from suspension?
You know what? Yeah, they're not cutting their teeth right now.
Is that where you are as a Yankees fan because you know how good this team can be?
Exactly. Like I said, and I'm not worried. I want to see, bring up a little more youth. Let me see what Gleyber does because he is raking right now in AAA. So let's see what he does. Put him at second. You move Torreyes because you got to keep that 400 OBP on your batter 8th or 9th because he's another leadoff guy. Keep him in the lineup. Put him at third and put Neil Walker or even give me Tyler Austin at first base. I'm okay with that.
I love Tyler Austin, and I take the fight out of it because you spoke about his grittiness as a baseball player in general. And I like that because I think that's what this team had so much in Todd Frazier last year and Brett Gardner, that you need a little bit of that grittiness, and you kind of need a guy to bring that to the ball club. And it seems like once you lost Todd Frazier, you were looking for who's that next guy to kind of bring that confidence, bring that cockiness, bring that swag to the team. And I know maybe it's just because he's in the back of my mind because of the fight that happened last week with Boston, but at the end of the day, Tyler Austin kind of has that swag about him where he doesn't care what you think about him. He's going to come out, he's going to ball, he's going to play his game, he's going to play hard, he's going to slide hard, he's going to go in and he's going to earn his, and he's going to prove that he belongs. And sometimes I feel like that's a great thing to have in your lineup.
There's also one other fella on the DL who used to have that kind of spark last year for the Yankees, and that was Clint Frazier.
True.
That red-headed ginger.
True. And you also have to think about Greg Bird in that light, too. Think about what that lineup did once Greg Bird got in late in the season.
That's why you can't panic. I know we were 15 games in, and it's like, wow, the Red Sox got off to a hot start as well. So you're like, already looking up at the Red Sox. But it's a 162-game season. Come talk to me in September. Let's see where we are then. Because I guarantee if we're not fighting Boston in a 3-4 game battle, we'll at least have probably top priority at a wild card game.
Does it scare you that Boston got off to such a hot start? Because you mentioned it to me last week about how it was important for the Mets to keep winning and building that lead against the Nationals, because your point was the Nationals are going to play good baseball eventually. So if you build that lead now, you might build enough cushion to last you the next 4 months and possibly win you the NL East. Is that the only thing that really kind of puts the Yankees in panic mode? Because nobody else is playing very well in the AL East. It's really just the Boston Red Sox and everybody else kind of muddling around 2 games over 500, 1 game over 500. Is that really just kind of why panic mode might be felt at Yankee Nation now more than ever?
Well, listen, it's what you've done for me lately. Of course, the Yankees, and it's World Series or bust at this point, and everyone was saying at the beginning of the year when we got Stanton, look at this lineup. We haven't been healthy. Everyone's, you know what? I can't imagine what. Hopefully, if Greg Bird ever does stay healthy, but at this point, I keep saying, if he stays healthy, he's proven he can't stay healthy. So I don't know why I keep going to that well of, well, once he gets healthy, he'll be great, because you know what? He really can't.
He needs to prove it.
He really can't. Exactly.
And I don't think you're going to hit 244 all year, which is currently the team batting average. I know for a fact that won't hold up, and I don't think your team ERA is going to be a 4.78 the remainder of the year. I think that's going to drop. I think those guys are going to start getting on track. I think the bullpen's going to start getting on track. Remember, there is a legit hangover for those guys. Arms are the hardest thing to recuperate when you make a long playoff run deep into October. And right now, that's what they're feeling. Aroldis Chapman was abused the year the Chicago Cubs won the World Series, came back, was injured, wasn't spectacular last year until late, but then blew out the bullets again late into the playoffs and bounces back again. Throwing is the most unnatural motion you could possibly do. So the people that are going to take the longest to bounce back, look at the New York Mets. They're now bouncing back from the 2015 World Series run. Noah Syndergaard, yeah, part of it was his workout routine. But that 2015 year sent him in an injury spree for 2 straight years. As did Matt Harvey, as did Steven Matz, as did Zach Wheeler. That's the year he needed Tommy John. Those guys, that 2015 season is the reason why in 16 and in 17 we were not as healthy as a pitching staff.
It's really a game, it's a season of attrition, Andrew. And you got to get through it. Right now, the Yankees are hitting that stride of everyone's getting banged up this way, that, the other thing. And you know what? Who knows? Boston may go through a string of injuries. Xander Bogaerts went down recently. And I feel like out of the AL East, the Yankees and the Red Sox are almost built the same way. I'll give the pitching nod towards Boston for Sale and David Price, although David Price, he's injury-prone recently, and he hasn't been himself from his old Tampa Bay days. But you look at their roster, I mean, they have a lot of offensive potency. Their defense is good. Like I said, their pitching staff is decent. I mean, obviously their top 2 are good, but after that, Eduardo Rodriguez, Drew Pomeranz, he's always injured. You know, they don't really scare me. Their bullpen is, you know, they have what's his face at the back end there, Kimbrel. So I really don't. They are almost mirror images to the Yankees. You see Mike Dombrowski and Brian Cashman have almost built the exact same kind of powerhouse offensive unit. And Boston will come back down to earth, and the Yankees, you know, because they're the Yankees. Hopefully we come back, we get a little hot, like you said. You start putting 3 or 4 games together. Look at the Mets. The Mets have rattled off, 9 in a row?
It was 9 in a row before they lost to the Brewers, but you're right. And that's all it takes is that one streak, and you're so right about the Boston Red Sox. And, hey, it is a long season. There is a lot to happen. And I think, again, at the end of the day, the Yankees are going to be there in the AL East and in the MLB playoffs.
Maybe the Yankees should, on the trade deadline, go after Bartolo Big Sexy Cologne. Did you see that performance he put on? Him and Verlander?
Just an extra arm that they might need to start, and it's a cheap option.
That's your boy.
Love Bartolo.
He loved playing with the Mets, I heard.
Never forget the day he hit his first career home run against San Diego.
Yeah.
Oh, man, was that a moment. And what other moments you have in your life, maybe with your broken doors, thermopanes, or windows, those moments stink. But we have somebody that can help you fix those things when those moments happen, and that is Hawthorne Glass. And we want to remind you that if you have a broken shower door, a window, a dirty thermopane, call Hawthorne Glass at 973-427-4344 and talk to our man Angelo. He has 3+ decades of quality service in the glass industry, and they don't call him the best in the business for nothing, folks. So go ahead and give him a call. And when you do, mention Double A Balls Podcast. For your first consultation, you will receive 10% off. Yes, that's Hawthorne Glass, the best in the glass industry. Call them 973-427-4344. 4-4. Anthony Rinaldi. It's Hawthorne Glass. It's Whataya Got. We have a tied scoreboard at 12-12. You made the right picks last week.
Don't call it a comeback. I've been here for years.
Anthony picked the Denver Nuggets versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Timberwolves end up winning in overtime. It was a fantastic game, and he picked Karl Anthony Towns, who also had a fantastic game that went up against the New Jersey Devils, losing 5-3, and Andrew picking Keith Kincaid, who, as I just mentioned, gave up 5 goals and was not the performer I needed.
Shout out Denver Nuggets. You know, they're not a bad team, even though at one point I think they had like a 6 or 7 games above 500, and down in the West there they kind of fizzled down the end there. But they're kind of like Utah. They're a player or two away from really taking that next step and becoming kind of a force in the West to kind of go up against Golden State and Houston. But Andrew, I needed those games, brother.
You needed them.
I was hurting.
Tied the scoreboard 12-12.
That's it. Give me even keel there.
So since you did win it last week, I'm going to let you get it started this week. So, Anthony Rinaldi, what do you got?
I love the hardwood. It's a passion of mine.
We know it.
I'm staying on the hardwood. NBA playoffs.
That scares me.
This is going to be, I think, an interesting game for the mere fact that King James has a lot of undue pressure, because I feel like when you talk about King James, it's like, wow, look what King James did this season. He had this great season, his 15th year in the league, and he's doing all these he has all these accolades. But then, you know, he gets blown up by 18, and you go, well, look who's playing with. He's got garbage. He can't have it both ways. And Cleveland can't go down 0-2, Andrew. You do not want to go into Hoosierville down 0-2 with that small town of Indiana.
100%.
So I'm going to go with a Wednesday night banger, TNT. Give me Charles Barkley and the crew of TNT. It's Pacers at Cleveland, Game 2, 7 p.m. But I'm going with a Pacer for my player to watch.
Wow.
I want to see your top 15 boy, Victor Oladipo, go do what he does again to take over that game. Because I guarantee you, LBJ will be covering Oladipo at some point during that game.
100%. And I'm not going to lie to you, I really thought you were going to pick LBJ there because you've been on his bandwagon a lot of this year based off the way he's played.
He scores, he does all the dishing, he gets all the rebounds. It's too easy. I got to pick somebody a little bit different, Andrew. Come on.
I love the Victor Oladipo pick. See, I loved him on the Thunder. I really wish that had worked out, but I'm happy with the current situation of the Thunder.
And listen, I'm not like you who picks Sunday at the Masters. I don't go for the easy layups, Andrew.
Well,
I try to pick the hard ones. I want to give the people something to watch. Andrew, what do you got?
Well, I picked the hard one last week. It just kind of came back and bit me in the face. So I'm going to flip it back to basketball. I'm going to join you on the hardwood. And I'm also going to stay on Wednesday. And I'm not just picking this because I get pumped up that we can now talk about it on the Friday morning dab. But I'm also picking this because it is Game 2 of the Thunder versus Jazz. And I think this is the biggest game of the series because the Oklahoma City Thunder, the biggest thing that they can hold their hat on is they play so well at home. And I think if the Thunder want to be successful in the playoffs, they really can't afford to drop any games at home, especially against a good Utah Jazz team who themselves also play very well at home in Utah. So if they can find a way to win game number 2 on Wednesday night and go into Utah with that 2-0 cushion, that's okay if they drop one there. It's okay if you come back from Utah 3-1, but I think that's the way they have to win this series and every series going forward. So I'm taking the Thunder versus Jazz. That is game number 2 on Wednesday night. And no, I'm not going to pick my man Russell Westbrook. I'm going to pick Paul George. And here's why.
Double dipping.
I wrestled with Paul George and Carmelo Anthony. Because at the end of the day, Paul George and Carmelo Anthony are going to be difference makers for this Thunder team. The best thing I think I saw all night the other night was Carmelo Anthony playing defense. He came up with some steals. He tipped some passes. He actually hustled on the defensive side. The reason I go with Paul George, though, is because, yeah, it's one night. He was on fire. But at the end of the day, Paul George needs to be that guy the remainder of this playoffs and be that Robin to Russell Westbrook's Batman if this Thunder team wants to continue moving forward.
I watched a lot of Carmelo not play defense, but it's the dude actually, when his mind's set to it, he will play defense. And it's just unfortunate that he only wants to play offense 98% of his time. But if Russell Westbrook and who's the coach over there, a guy from Florida,
Billy Donovan.
could get him focused on strictly playing a little more defense and not worry about scoring,
And then just hitting his open threes.
his scoring will come to him.
Yes, he's going to get the open threes. Russell Westbrook and Paul George can create enough. And what I love the most about what the Thunder are doing, just to finish, Billy Donovan has made a really great adjustment with the Thunder. About 5 or 6 minutes into the first quarter, he takes Paul George out of the game. He kind of gets him that extra 3, 4, 5 minutes worth of rest at the end of the first quarter, so he can come back at the start of the second quarter and be the leader of the second unit. Since the Thunder have made that move, it's made a difference in both Paul George's game and the overall game of the Thunder, because the biggest problem with the Thunder over the last year without Kevin Durant is when Russell Westbrook's off the field, the team is terrible. They're not a good enough team offensively or defensively, for that matter, to continue to hold leads. So that is why what Billy Donovan has done with adjusting Paul George and Carmelo Anthony and adjusting that second unit to give those two guys a little bit more time to shine and make it a little bit easier for when Russell Westbrook comes off the floor, it is huge. So again, I come back to Paul George. He's got to be close to that guy. I don't need 37 every night. I don't need you to be 8 of 11. I don't need you to be unconscious. But I need you to give me that 25, be a very high percentage shooter, and do what I need you to do when Russell Westbrook isn't on the floor.
We'll find out in our Friday morning dab.
And we will talk about this, what do you got. So just to give you the recap, it does 12-12 scoreboard. So we are neck and neck right now. Anthony has the Pacers versus Cavaliers. That will be game number 2 Wednesday night. He's taking Victor Oladipo for his performer. And Andrew has the Jazz versus the Thunder. That is also on Wednesday night. And he is taking Paul George as his performer. So 2 game 2s on the hardwood in the playoffs that both Anthony and I are picking this week.
We are both double dipping, trying to go back to the fountain air. With me going with Oladipo, trying to reenact his 32 points. And you going with PG, trying to get 37. Interesting, those guys were trading for each other too, Andrew.
Kind of crazy, right?
We can talk about that in the Friday morning dab. Which team,
was the better end of that trade?
Because when you first heard it, you were like, "Wait, the Thunder got Paul George for who?
Yep.
And what?"
And now it's starting to look way more likely. Mark my words right now, Ant. If this Thunder team makes a run in this playoffs, Paul George is going to stay with the Oklahoma City Thunder after this offseason.
I wrote that down, don't worry.
100%. Yeah, as Anthony Rinaldi would say, write it down or don't, because this podcast is recorded.
Nailed it.
Nailed it. And remember, if you need something nailed or fixed at your house, Hawthorne Glass, 973-427-4344 are wonderful sponsors of Whataya Got. There's one more thing on my mind. I know it's on your mind. The New York Giants and the New York Jets have the number 2 and the number 3 pick in the NFL draft coming up a little bit more than a week.
10 days from Monday, right? Right, it's the 16th. Yeah,
So,
26th.
what are you feeling about that second pick for the Giants? And I know Mel Kiper and Todd McShay came out with some mock drafts that you brought into the studio today. Do you agree, disagree, or want to see the Giants go a different direction than what is being predicted?
That's a great question, Andrew. I'm looking at both of them. They have 2 similar picks in the 3 and 4 hole, the Jets and the Cleveland Browns. But for the most part, and surprisingly, because I feel like they're always together, they're quite different. And I believe the Giants may go in a third direction, because I don't believe they'll go in either direction. But real quick, I'm going to rattle off both top 5 draft picks. We'll start with Mel Kiper. He's got Allen going 1 to Cleveland, Sam Darnold going 2 to the Giants, Rosen to the Jets, Saquon to the Cleveland, Baker Mayfield to Denver. McShay's got Sam Darnold going 1, which would be interesting for the Giants, because if I believe that the Giants are beholden to one quarterback, and that's Sam Darnold. And the Jets, of course, they like all 3 quarterbacks. They don't care. They just want to typical see why the franchises are the way they are. But if Cleveland, that's why I think the Giants are hyping up so much that they want Saquon Barkley, because they want to put that little nugget in Cleveland's brain that they're going to take Saquon Barkley. So if Cleveland really wants him they can't wait till 4 because the Giants take him at 2. So they get nervous and take him at 1. and then the Giants have the pick of the litter at what quarterback they want. But McShay's got Bradley Chubb going to the Giants, which I don't believe, because we traded away JPP. So what's the point of having another DN rush?
I just think the Giants have to go quarterback in this draft.
Oh, man, I'm so torn. But then they got Josh Rosen going to the Giants. He's got Saquon going to Cleveland. He's got Denzel Ward, the cornerback, I believe, going to Denver. And then Quentin Nelson is the 6th pick. I think Arizona holds the 6th pick.
I think if you're the Giants and the 6th pick is
I'm sorry,
actually
the Colts hold the 6th
Indianapolis. Yeah, because that was the trade with the
Trade,
Jets for pick number 3. If you're the Giants, I think the best case scenario is the Cleveland Browns pick anybody not named Sam Darnold, and you get Sam Darnold. I think that is absolutely the best case scenario.
I agree with you. And I think, like I said, it's been told. Your boy Chris Canty from the afternoon ESPN ride always talked about how there was one quarterback the Giants loved, and his intel from the Giants was that Sam Darnold. They love Sam Darnold.
And he was on the Giants campus, I believe, on Monday, going through interviews and meeting the staff and doing the whole recruitment visit type deal for the NFL draft. And I think that kind of gives you the idea. Obviously, they have a lot of these guys bringing to their facilities, and the Giants have, if you read a lot, they are a lot of times connected to Sam Darnold and Saquon Barkley. And I think your point before is correct. They've hyped up Saquon Barkley so much because I think they want the Browns to believe they're going to take him in 2, that the Browns won't get him at 4, take him first, get a quarterback at 4, and then that leaves Sam Darnold there for the Giants. They have the pick of Sam Darnold, and they're going to get a really good running back later on in this draft. They don't need to go ahead and get a running back that early. This running back class is really deep in this draft, so I think the Giants are best served getting a quarterback. And if it's not Sam Darnold, Anthony, who else is it that you want under center after Eli Manning leaves?
Unfortunately, I didn't see a single down he played because he didn't. Because for some reason we thought Ben McAdoo thought Geno Smith was the answer. In my heart of hearts, if I don't know why Gettleman would say that it's Saquon, he's been sporting Saquon's name, saying we're taking him number 2 regardless of what have you. The Giants' O-line is so bad that, besides Nate Solder and the guy they signed, I can't say his name right now. It's a crazy name, Omanamu or something like that. They don't really have an offensive line, so why get a running back that's not really going to? Because the Giants aren't a single player away from being a contender. We are multiple positions away. I'm going to give you the draft day scenario that I see happening. Cleveland's going to take Darnold number 1 because I think he's the most quarterback ready to make that next step and be your franchise quarterback. If that's the case, I see the Giants trading with the Bills. The Bills are going to freak out. They're going to give him 2 number 1s, 2 2s, and a 3. And Gettleman can't pass that up. And we'll see the Giants move to 12, and we'll figure it out from there. That's my scenario.
Well, see, the one thing I wanted the Giants to do, and even maybe the Jets for this scenario, but the Jets are in a little bit of a different position because they're looking way more now than the Giants may be. And even if it's only 1 year with Eli Manning, it's still a year of buffer time and development that you know is probably going to happen. I love Mason Rudolph out of Oklahoma State. For some reason, he's a guy, and hey, I'm not an NFL expert, so I will go ahead and give the guys that are getting paid a lot more money than I am to cover the sport the benefit of the doubt. But it just, in my opinion, from the eye test, and I did get a chance to watch every guy, these top 5 guys. I had a chance to watch Rosen, Allen, Darnold, Baker Mayfield, Mason Rudolph, Lamar Jackson. I had a chance to watch them all. And I really love the poise, the composure, the ability, the size, a little bit of mobility from Mason Rudolph, the way he ran that Oklahoma State offense. So if I'm the Giants, what I do is I go ahead and I do pick somebody that is not a quarterback at 2 or make a trade. I do pick up the phone and call Buffalo. I make a trade so I can get more depth in my locker room. And then with that, I think it's the number 34 pick in the draft because they're the second pick in the second round. If I believe, and I think he is going to be still available, I then go get Mason Rudolph. Or if it's not Mason Rudolph and maybe Lamar Jackson's still there or another guy, but I think Mason Rudolph's still going to be there, then I go get him. That's just me. Maybe I'm in the minority there, but I think you have a better opportunity to build your franchise, set it up because you're going to get more draft picks by trading out of that 2 spot. You're still going to get quality running back, probably quality offensive lineman, and then a very high quality quarterback with that first pick the second pick in the second round, but your first pick in the second round.
Don't quote me on this, but I have a feeling Belichick is going to take Mason Rudolph.
I can see that.
In the first round.
I can see that, absolutely.
Just as a predecessor to TB12.
100%. And I think also one of those teams that was in the playoffs last year, maybe a Pittsburgh, takes like a Lamar Jackson. Because think about it. Lamar Jackson's a mobile type quarterback. Ben Roethlisberger might not look the part, but he plays the part very well as that mobile type quarterback. Almost a great guy to learn from. The only thing that scares me about that, and I think that's what's going to happen, but the only thing that scares me about that, Anthony, is Ben Roethlisberger's been hurt a lot in his career, so I don't know if with a slimmer, not as big guy in Lamar Jackson, I don't know if that's exactly the best guy to learn from in terms of safety, but at the end of the day, I think 5 or 6 quarterbacks are gone by the 40th pick in the draft.
That's everyone's saying it. This is a quarterback-heavy draft this year. I mean, I think they say it every year.
Well, and the last guy I'm looking at, and I know that I think it was Todd McShay said he might be the steal of the draft, and that's Bo Scarborough, the running back from Alabama. One thing about those Alabama running backs, and for the most part, they've all come in and had very good to pretty good careers. Those guys are hard-nosed, tough runners.
Not Trent Richardson.
They're not, and he's really the only one you can think about. And he had 2 good years, but those guys are hard-nosed runners. They run between the tackles. They're not afraid of contact. I mean, you look across the NFL. Alabama's everywhere, obviously, but running back-wise, I think it's good school to draft from, running back-wise. And Bo Scarborough is that type of guy that I just kind of want on my team. And I think he's going to be a running back. Look for whoever ends up drafting Bo Scarborough. And I agree with Todd McShay and his rundown on why he could be steal of the draft. There are a little bit of health concerns there. But for me, that's my one guy to kind of look at. And 5 years from now, you're going to say, man, that Bo Scarborough pick was a great pick.
Would you like to win on the Dolphins, Andrew?
I want everybody on the Dolphins. Truthfully, I hope that Baker Mayfield slides to 11.
How about Dez Bryant to the Dolphins?
That Dez Bryant situation, for those that don't know, I'm sure you do, it's been all over. Dez Bryant released by the Dallas Cowboys. Crazy situation. He said he wants to go to a team that plays the Dallas Cowboys twice. So by hearing that, I would rule my Dolphins and everybody else out besides the Washington Redskins, the Philadelphia Eagles, and the New York Giants.
Yeah, I'd pair him up next to Odell. If you could figure out a way to pay those 2 knuckleheads together, wow.
That'd be the better version of what you wanted with Brandon Marshall last year.
Exactly. Oh, wow. Andrew, you just nailed that right on the head.
That's what I'm saying.
You got Frankie franchise nailed that on the head.
You have the guy that can stretch the offense and then the defense, then you also have the guy that's just big and can go up and catch the ball.
I mean, the Dez Bryant cutting, that's strictly business. He wasn't worth, I think he was making $16.5 million against their cap. So obviously Jerry Jones, he's a businessman down there in Texas. So he's not going to mess around. And they couldn't come to an agreement. Dez didn't want to play for less. And he wasn't putting up, Dez really hasn't been putting up those number 1 type numbers those past few years. Although, he did have a stretch run where I believe it was like 13, 14, and 15 maybe, or either year, those 3 years, he was a stud. 1,000+ yards, 10 TDs, worth all the money he was making. But I don't think him and Dak Prescott also got along. And I think they want to make Dak that vocal leader. And I think it was hard with him, with Dez, also in that huddle.
And I think Jerry Jones realized that, I think a lot of the NFL is realizing that wide receivers are kind of indispensable right now. You can get a lot of quality wide receiver play from guys that you don't have to pay, let's say, the Jarvis Landry contract that Cleveland just gave after the Dolphins traded him, or what Odell's asking for, or what Antonio Brown signed for last year as an extension with Pittsburgh. You don't have to really pay a lot of guys a lot of money to get quality wide receiver play 1 through 4 on your depth chart, and I think that's what teams are starting to realize. And I think that's also what led to the Cowboys kind of saying, he's not worth the headache. This is almost addition by subtraction by releasing him right now and not having to pay him the money that we were going to have to pay him going into next season.
Football is right around the corner. The draft is 9 days away, people.
And
Let's go G-Men.
And we are going to keep covering the draft up until draft coverage. Obviously, the Friday morning dab. Listen to the 3rd edition. We might be having another podcast, the Letterman Jacket podcast, who specializes in a little bit of football talk on the podcast in the next 10 days to hopefully talk about the draft and kind of give you a rundown. Anthony Rinaldi.
We call that cross podcasting.
Cross podcasting. Before we go here, I'm going to remind the people that they can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at AA Balls on both, DAABpodcast.com. Hit the subscribe button, Anchor, iTunes, Podbean.
Tell your friends. Clicks, likes, subscriptions. We need it all. You don't got to listen to us. Just click and subscribe to us.
Help the podcast any way you can. Apparel. You can find it at DAABpodcast.com. The link to PowerOnPerformance.com is there. I am Andrew Romanella. That is my partner, Anthony Rinaldi. We are the AA Balls Podcast, and we are out. This has been the AA Balls Podcast, powered by Power On Performance, your leader in baseball and softball training apparel. Visit www.poweronperformance.com to get your apparel and start training like the pros today.
Mediante.